So you found all these amazing healing tools and now you're not doing them. What's up with that? Why do we have this resistance to doing the things that we know are going to help us? And how do we overcome it so that we can actually start making progress? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. My name is Cedar of Cedar Sacred Well, and I'm passionate about sharing these somatic and nervous system tools because they helped me go from housebound to hiking, and I would love to have the same results show up for you. All right, so resistance. In my last video, I talked about resistance to what is, resistance to the experience of being ill, the limitations and the symptoms. But what about resistance to healing, to doing the things that you know are going to help you, that maybe have helped you in the past, or that someone you trust has suggested for you? Why does this happen? There's primarily two reasons. The first is that you've ingrained certain habits and coping mechanisms, and honestly, let's call them survival tools, right? They helped you get to where you are now. If these tools were not successful, you would not be watching this video right now, right? So you have a positive track record that all of these things that you've been doing have helped you survive. So wouldn't your nervous system and your brain want to just keep doing that? Maybe for you that looks like scrolling on your phone and kind of numbing out. Maybe it's, eating or using other kinds of substances to change how you feel. It could be a lot of different things, honestly, and only you know what that is for you. But it's whatever you turn to when you feel uncomfortable, when you want to feel better, instead of doing a somatic practice or a meditation or journaling or any of the other things that maybe are on your list of helpful tools to do. So the first reason is just that it's an ingrained habit. It is, that's the easiest, most straightforward path that your brain knows how to go down. And it takes a lot of practice to change those tools, especially when they are connected to our survival systems, which in a lot of cases they are because we're in this dysregulated state. Another reason that this can happen is that our nervous system will always prioritize what is known over what is unknown. And this even includes being healthy. There's a certain amount of unknowns to if you completely recovered or your pain completely disappeared tomorrow, what would that mean for you? How would your life change? A lot of things would probably be different for you. And while that would be great and amazing, and I would love if that happened, there is a part of you that really only cares about surviving. It's not terribly concerned with how happy you are. It just wants you to survive. And it knows that whatever's going on right now, we haven't died yet. So it's probably safer than who knows what else could happen over there if, we went down that road. So there could be a certain resistance to doing healing tools simply because they're new, simply because they're different, and they're unknown. We can develop nervous system triggers to negative events, but we can also develop them towards things that are just unfamiliar and strange enough. This happened recently with my cat Camellia, where we got her a new feeder that opens automatically so her brother doesn't eat her food. And she was freaking terrified of the thing. It has done nothing but give her food, but it's just weird enough and unknown enough that it was very scary for weeks until we trained her that it was okay to do it. And it took a lot of patience, a lot of reassurance, a lot of kibble, and a lot of pets. And so you might need to just treat yourself like a scared little cat and give yourself a lot of reassurance and a lot of treats and a lot of pets for doing the nervous system tools or meditations or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Yeah, having a lot of self-compassion. I find imagining myself as a a silly little cat is very helpful for self-compassion. Maybe you have a different metaphor that works for you. So yeah, so resistance to that. And then because it takes time, it takes patience, often the results are not obvious right away. It really does take time with these tools before you start to see all the amazing gains from them. It just takes a lot of willpower at first. And I think we have a lot of value judgments around willpower and who has more of it or less and what that means about you. But we all have a finite amount, right? There's always, at some point, we will not have any anymore, and we won't be able to force ourselves to do things that we don't want to do. And that's okay. So what I like to do when I notice this, and this is for those of you who are very good at, maybe you have your checklist of things that you do every day. You've already established a practice, but you're suddenly feeling resistance. So this is if the resistance is new or unusual for you, is just taking a little vacation, Healing can feel like a full-time job. It can be a full-time job. So sometimes we need to take vacations from our jobs to kind of refresh and reset. So if you have been doing a lot of practices for a long time and they're just not feeling interesting to you and you're just over it, give yourself maybe a weekend off, maybe a whole week off, and then come back to it with fresh eyes. And you can do any practices that you want during your vacation, but only because you want to, not because it's something on a list. And you might find when you come back to it that you want to change some of them. Maybe these tools that were helping you actually just aren't really the right tools for this part of your healing journey. And you can swap it out for something else. My daily practice changed many times over the course of my recovery. I always had one. And I also took vacations from it sometimes. If you haven't started a practice yet, if you're having a hard time like being consistent at all, then I would say that this suggestion is not for you. It's for the folks who feel like I've been doing all this and it just feels like work now. Just to kind of step back, refresh, come back to it fresh, and maybe adjust it if needed. And then lastly, I guess this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about giving yourself lots of treats and pets and reassurance. Make yourself a little sticker board. If you don't have a daily checklist, make yourself one. I have a free one on my website, so you can send me an email and I'd be happy to send you the link to that. Having a daily habit tracker checklist, having, some star stickers that you can give yourself like you would your kid, treating yourself like a kid who you're trying to get to do something helpful, like do their homework every night. What would you do for your kid to help them build a new healthy habit? Try doing that for yourself, even if it feels a little bit silly. These are all things that have helped me to stay consistent with the tools that I knew were helping. And so I hope some of these ideas can be helpful for you. And then the last thing I want to offer you is a guided meditation to dissolve resistance, coming at this from a somatic perspective of finding the resistance in the body and just being with it and just not resisting the resistance. Because sometimes that's exactly where we need to start, is just not resisting the fact that we have resistance. And even just that is going to open up some space and open up some possibility for you. So if you want to do that meditation, that's going to be the next video in this series. So it'll either be next on this playlist or it'll be coming out very soon if it isn't yet. And you can also find it on Insight Timer under Cedar Sacred Well. All right, and you'll want to, once you finish that meditation, you'll want to come back here because I have one more video on this topic that is actually going to bring it all together and kind of take it the next step. Because just resolving the resistance is like the first piece, but what do we do after that? How do we actually then pivot towards healing? So that's what I'm going to be talking about next, is moving from resistance into surrender. I'll see you then.